All right, we're going to get going here. So a great night tonight. So excited to have Raka here. They've been a long-term partner of the Entrepreneurship Center, providing marketing, consulting, and services for students when they're at a certain level, and both UNH alums. So maybe tell a little bit of their story about how they started and UNH's impact on them. But as usual, I'm going to give a couple of slides of some infomercials before we do that. So the next boot camp is coming up. I think it's 3 weeks actually, 3 weeks from today. So it's actually Pitch Bootcamp. So for those who are, this is actually intentionally timed in preparation for those who are doing the SVIC, but obviously there's value if you're going on to do Holloway or any of the others. So Todd Boucher, also a UNH alum, is going to talk about how to do that. He's coached a lot of teams on that successful piece. So that's in 3 weeks, 3 Mondays from today here. Other upcoming Passport events, also for those who are in the Entrepreneurship Club, if you didn't swipe in for this event, right, 2 different events, Entrepreneurship Club, so the kiosk is in the back, just make sure you swipe in before you leave. So this Thursday is UNH Innovations Wildcat Seminars. So Kevin Short, who teaches here at UNH, Professor Short, he's done 3 if not 4 startups. He just had his last one acquired. And he's going to talk a lot about the intellectual property side at a university and the commercialization of that. So actually pretty neat and pretty relevant to UNH. On the following Thursday is the Student Debt Seminar. So obviously a lot of I2 Passport is related to winning money for help pay for tuition, student debt. That's an hour-long seminar to sort of give you the ins and outs about what you should do, what you can do on that. And I have to say we did that last year in the spring. Really informative. A lot of students I think came in thinking like, I have to do it because it's one of the Passport programs, and then actually left with a pretty good amount of knowledge on that. Obviously Entrepreneurship Club, you guys know, meets on Mondays. Marketing and Sales Club meet every other week here as well. SVIC is coming up, so there's a couple more weeks of that. So that's an opportunity. I know you guys probably know that. And then the Maurice Prize, and you guys have heard this already. First year for Maurice Prize, unlike SVIC or Holloway, this is about you're getting judged on your experience and your journey. So you basically say, you have this idea, this is my team, you work on it for 3 or 4 months, and then you get judged. And if the whole thing craters and fails, like that's okay. So Fred Maurice, 93-year-old alum, really wants to encourage students just to start that walk and take chances. So really neat opportunity. I can tell you that we have maybe 4 or 5 right now. So if you think about odds of winning $5,000, that's pretty, the odds are in your favor. So tonight we have Duncan Craig and Brian DeKoning, both from Raka, co-founders of Raka. Amazing, skyrocketing marketing firm in Portsmouth. They're in their 3rd or 4th location. They're just moving, I think, next week. Really growing fast. My son, who's a junior, not here at UNH, actually did an internship 2 summers ago with them. Was completely blown away by the experience and actually sort of the camaraderie and the knowledge and the access to the whole leadership team at Raka. So if you guys are interested in that, it's a really good program there as well. And so obviously this fall, we've been talking about sort of last time was Idea Bootcamp. How do you get ideas? This is more how do you start to market and find that customer? What does it mean to have the customer? And then the next one in 3 weeks would be how do you present that to investors or for presentations. So with no further ado, I'll turn it over to you guys.
All right, thank you. All right. All right. So let me just tell you very briefly who we are and what we do so that you understand as we go through these exercises and learn a little bit more about inbound marketing and you can understand where we're coming from. So we were incorporated in 2004, but actually the agency's roots date back to 2000, 2001 when I was a student at UNH and living in the Gables and started an agency out of the Gables and was doing websites and marketing and things like that. And after I graduated, I continued to do that, brought on a business partner, and we changed the name to Raka in 2004. But it really did start as an agency that I started in my dorm room here at UNH. And here we are, 13 years later. We're about 20 people right now. We grow in a very organic way. So we have 3 different types of teams. There's strategy, there's design, and there's development. Strategy sort of really analyzes who a client is, what they need to do to reach people. More of what we'll be talking about tonight. Then we have user experience design that makes it look all pretty, but also really usable, everything that we do. And then programmers who program everything. So we can do everything in-house, which is a bit of a differentiator for us. We're doing websites, we're doing big inbound marketing campaigns, we're doing online advertising. Basically a modern version of an ad agency. So, if you think about sort of Mad Men style advertising of the 60s and things like that, it's the modern version of that. We don't do a lot of TV commercials and things like that, but we do everything digital, everything online. We work with clients like Bose, Liberty Mutual, who else?
University of New Hampshire.
That's right.
Yes,
Here we
State of New
go.
Hampshire.
State of New Hampshire, Whole Foods, TD Bank, Kennebunkport, or Kennebunk Savings Bank rather, outside here. CVS, TJ Maxx, IDEX, another alum. So there's a lot of different clients that come to us from a lot of different areas, and they're all really seeking to do different things with the types of clients that they have or customers that they have. But the services all really sort of follow the path that we'll be talking about tonight. We're really defining what a customer needs, who they are, where they're looking for things, and then how to get them to come to you and really get them to engage with your brand. And the word we use is delight. We want to delight them so that they continue to purchase from you or be a brand ambassador for you, talking about your brand and those sorts of things. Right. We talked a little bit about that, so I'll skip around a lot. I don't know if anybody's familiar with HubSpot. We're one of the top partners in the country for HubSpot. So we do a lot of implementation of online marketing automation tools that's helping clients to really sort of get to people in new ways that's really sort of changing the way that brands are able to communicate with their customers.
Who's familiar with HubSpot? Can we get a show of hands if you've heard of it? Okay, so about 30% maybe. They're based in Cambridge, but they also have an office in Portsmouth. Excellent place for young business and technology professionals to explore careers.
Absolutely, yeah. You want to talk a little bit about the inbound
Sure.
marketing framework?
Yep, so my name's Brian DeConing. I'm one of the partners at Rocka, and I'll move over here for visual balance. So we have two blazers on either end. What I do at Rocka is I head up the inbound team, so that is a lot of strategy. So we help our clients understand what their differentiators are, but also how they can provide value to their customers. Because if they can provide value to their customers by helping them, really just being helpful, providing information they're looking for, they can attract people to their website, they can build their brand credibility, and they can generate leads, which lead to sales. Who's familiar with the term inbound marketing? Show of hands. Okay, about 27%. All right, so when we look at inbound marketing, basically we're looking at the website or a landing page, but one central hub, and we want to basically just drive and attract people to that central hub through search engine optimization, social media activity, email marketing, paid advertising. Might be even traditional advertising, might be a commercial on TV that's driving them to the website. And we want to somehow capture their contact information as a lead. So we want to get their email address, basically. And then we want to be able to continue to market to them through email and other means, but mostly through email. But we also want to build a contact record. So we want to have some kind of database set up where we can track what people are interested in, track what they're interacting with on the website. Gets a little creepy, but you guys have all grown up with it, so you're probably pretty comfortable with that kind of thing. But we want to help our clients understand what their prospects are doing on our site, on their sites, so that we can help them to convert them as customers.
We can actually change the way the website is for different customers. So if you go to a website and let's say you download an interesting piece on the top 10 things that you need to consider when launching a new product, and then you come back to the website later, we know that you downloaded that, we know what you were doing on the site, we can provide a different experience for you that's more tailored to you. Again, it's a little bit creepy, but it can actually be extremely effective and really helpful for people who are looking for information.
How do you guys go about researching a product? Say you want to buy a new pair of sneakers or a new phone. new TV or something like that. How do you go about researching that?
Go online.
So you go on Google, just search for reviews, what's the best of this or that. Any other ways?
A lot of people use Amazon.
Amazon, so check reviews on Amazon, see what the top products are, top sales, how many reviews there are, how creative the reviews are.
I check all the major retailers and just like compare.
Okay. So say you're going to buy some headphones, you'd go to Best Buy.
Best Buy, Amazon. Just
Okay, so you're comparing prices, but you're also comparing what other people said, right? Pretty much that's the main thing once you get past the price, right? So word of mouth, referrals, all that stuff is really important to our customers, especially business to consumer customers, because if they have bad reviews online, or if when people are searching for their product to find out if it's good or not, and they find something that is not flattering or it's not what the client wants them to find, that's not good, right? Because you're going to go buy the competitor product. So we help our clients manage all that stuff, and we call it inbound marketing. So what we're going to do tonight, we want to, has anyone here started a business? Okay, so pretty good, about 30% again. What kinds of business did you start?
The first one was like a clothing company,
Okay,
and then another one was a consulting business
cool. What did you consult for?
for like startups.
Okay, so you give them business advice, marketing advice?
Yeah, I would do mostly like the beginning marketing and like what type of business they were thinking of starting and helping
Cool.
them grow.
Yep. And what'd you do?
Oh, me?
Yep.
So I do. Sorry, it's late in the.
That's okay. I don't like to
So
get
I
business
started.
started.
So I initially sort of came up with this product. It's like it's software, and I created it when I was in high school and was giving it away for free. Got a good response for it.
Mhm.
It was sort of a kind of a niche market. You know, didn't really know if there was anybody that would buy it, but. You know, once I kind of came here to UNH, I sort of started kind of turning it into more of a commercial type product, and it's done okay. The biggest challenge for me has been that I'm like an engineer. I'm not a salesperson. I know like next to nothing about marketing, and
okay.
it's tough for me to like get in like that kind of mindset.
Gotcha. Yeah, you know, we work with a lot of clients who are similar to you, right? Where they're either really good at what they do, their service, or they've developed this really cool product, but they don't know how to talk to the people they want to buy their product or service. So we kind of help translate what the benefit is, but also help our clients to understand what people really want. What are they searching for? When you think about sales, often you'll think about someone trying to sell you, right? Telemarketers, ads that pop up when you're in the middle of a video, billboards, that kind of stuff. It's just interrupting your life, right? And it's annoying. Sometimes it works. But what we want to do is we want our clients to understand what their target audience is looking for. So what are you searching for? So the way that we do that, these are the 5 things we're going to go through tonight. A lot of it's pretty hands-on. Did everybody get the link that Ian Grant sent out?
Came from Heather, so.
From Heather? Okay, so there's a blog post with a content offer, a buyer persona download. If you haven't done that yet, take a second, look in your email, and click that link.
Those who RSVP'd on Eventbrite, so if you didn't...
We'll walk through it. Yep, we can walk through it. So let's go to buyer personas. So actually, I'm sorry. Can you take a step back? So I kind of hit on all of these things in just telling you about inbound marketing and what we do. What we want to help you guys to learn is to understand your audience, plan out content that's going to attract them to your site and possibly download something or become a lead of some sort. How to create content that's not going to drag on, because that's a huge stumbling block for our clients. They know that they want to get found on Google. They know they want to generate leads, but they don't have writers in-house or video people or anything like that, so it's really hard for them to produce content. So we want to give you some really basic ways you can do that. And then how you can market to the leads that you do generate, and then also how you're going to convert prospects through consultation. So that's more of sales, but it's really important to think about as you're planning out marketing. Okay. Has anybody done any of this stuff before? All right. This guy in the back, a little bit? Yeah? What'd you do?
I had an internship this past summer in marketing.
Cool. Where?
American Dental Partners.
Excellent. Nice. All right. So we're going to work on buyer personas. So buyer personas is really, it's another way to refer to your target audience, your customers, the people you want to buy your stuff. We refer to them as semi-fictional representations of your ideal customer. So when you build out buyer personas, any English majors in here? Just the guy with the camera. I was an English major too. One of the things you do as an English major, if you're a writer, is you learn how to do character sketches. Or maybe if you're an actor, you do a similar kind of thing, where you want to understand what motivates people to do things, right? So you want to know how old they are, what part of the country they live in, gender, if that applies. We want to know education level, if that applies. And you want to know how they get their information. For almost everybody now, it's searching online, just like you guys. So when we create buyer personas, when we do a website for a client, the first thing we do is a strategy. And we go through a process where we want to document what the client's goals are. So they always say, we want more sales, we want more revenue. So we want to put a number on that and a timeline. So we want them to commit to something like, we want 25% more sales by the end of Q4, or something to that effect. By doing that, you can measure it. And if you guys are embarking on any kind of marketing program, whether for your own businesses or for clients in the future, you really want to set some goals and make sure that everybody involved understands those and commits to them. That really sets a bar for you and for your boss or your client or the sales team. So yeah, one of the main things to understand with buyer personas is that you really want to understand how you can help them, how you can make their life easier. If it's a B2C customer, you want to understand what they're looking for, why they need the product, how can you make the whole process of buying it simpler? Like you're seeing a lot of crate type delivery programs now, where I can subscribe and get a box of clothes delivered to my house, try them on, see if I like them, send them back. That's so much more convenient than going shopping, right? So that's one way that's kind of an illustration of understanding who your buyer is and kind of packaging your product and the experience of the product to them. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to go through a buyer persona drill, all right? So we're going to do a workshop. And what we want to do, we're going to give you a couple of business situations, right? A couple of different companies. Does anyone have a company in mind that they want to market for already? No? Okay, so you can use our generic ones. Maybe not so generic. They're pretty good, yeah. You might want to write these down.
Just to add on to what Brian was saying, as far as who, some quick examples of buyer personas might be, if you're a bank, you want to target, we want to make them as specific as possible. So it might be a first-time home buyer, and we're going to say, who is this person? What are they doing? What are their interests? What's their age range? Where are they going to be going for research? And what types of things are they going to be searching for? In addition to that, we also want to say maybe it's a small business owner who's going to be looking for a small business loan. Or maybe it's someone looking to open up a checking account. And so we want to really sort of figure out who those people are and really talk about them and give them names, give them a real personality, because then we can continually refer back to them. So we have, as Brian said, we have two different companies sort of.
Before we get into
go
that,
for it.
Who has the buyer persona template that was emailed to the people who RSVP'd? Just one person? Two people? One? Just you? Okay. Anyone else RSVP for tonight? Can you click on the link and download the template? We'll show it up here and we can walk you guys through it too. Yeah, sure, that'd be great. So I guess we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you want to?
Yeah, sure, I can tell you. So we have 2 different businesses. You just pick one. The first one, blank canvas paint. So they're going to be making, or they are making, whiteboard paint, so you can paint a wall and turn it into a whiteboard. They're not first to market. They feel like their product is better. Maybe when you erase it, it erases more completely than their competition. They think that they're probably going to sell it to schools and businesses, but they really want to pursue creatives. So, they really want to get people thinking about this as something that they, if you wanted to paint like, a star on your wall, and that's the whiteboard. They want to market to people like video game designers or product designers or web designers, like people like that, and less, sort of insurance companies that are looking to just talk about numbers. So that's really the angle that they want to play with this. So that's one option for a business that you could workshop with. The other one is Clean Beans, which I honestly think is a really good idea for business. So somebody should take it and do it. It's like an Uber for cleaning. You realize your house is messy. You can open up the app, bring people in to clean it within a window that makes sense for you. You can also have them do laundry at the same time. You can schedule things ahead of time or have them come at any given point. Businesses could use this service, but you're probably going to appeal more to consumers, people who have a house that they want to get cleaned, or a family that they want to have laundry done for and cleaning. But who might download this app and use it? What types of people might be interested in that? So those are the 2 options we have. Again, it's the whiteboard paint, wherever that is, blank canvas paint, and Clean Beans, the Uber cleaning service.
Okay. So as we get to buyer persona templates, what you want to do is we'll just do one customer. So we want to do one buyer persona. You can pick which company you want to be. Each table has to decide and pick one company. And then you guys need to just work through all of the elements in the buyer persona. Demographic information, where they live, how they might find their information. The biggest piece of information, or the most important part, is listing out questions that they might have during the sales process or during the research process. So for headphones or something like that, you might be interested in noise canceling or not, so that might be one of the questions. For the idea paint, blank canvas paint, what are some questions that someone might have for if you're going to buy this kind of product for your office? Can I clean it? Is it harmful? Those types of things.
Can I paint it myself, or do I need to hire a professional? Those sorts of things.
So the reason we list out these questions is because those are the things that people search for, and that's the content that we want to create so that we can take advantage of search and then help to generate traffic to the website, but also leads. All right, so how are we doing on those templates, Ian?
I'm actually having a hard time opening the file.
Okay.
I can just pull it up, Brian.
Yeah.
Here, you want me to do that? Here,
Sure.
I'll do this. And
So how many marketing majors? And how many business majors? Okay. And anything else?
Biology.
Biology. What brings you here tonight?
I'm with I2, and I just see it as an opportunity to learn something else.
Cool.
Broaden
Excellent.
my horizons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other non-business? Yep.
I'm political science.
Medical science. What brings you here?
I'm a marketing intern for the Career and Professional Success Office.
Cool. What do you do there?
I create content for our social media platforms and make visuals for all the information for career services.
Oh, okay. So you actually create the graphics
Yeah.
and then post it. Cool. All right. So this is our buyer persona template. And this is kind of meta because this is actually a content offer that we have to attract the type of buyers that we want. So one of our buyer personas is marketer Mary. And she's 28 to 40, and she's like mid-level in her career. She works at a corporation. She wants to know about online marketing, inbound marketing, because she's tasked with making the website more efficient, producing more leads, producing more revenue. She doesn't really know how to do it because she didn't learn that in school. She was a marketing major, but nobody taught her about lead generation, at least 10 years ago when she was at school. So the buyer persona template is something that we offer. We link to it from blog posts so that people who are searching for, how do I start inbound marketing or how do I generate more leads from my site, find this and they download it. We then have their contact information so we can continue to market to them and really build a record of their interactions with our website. But
Basically offer that as a free product to,
Yep.
because you figure like, okay, somebody downloads your template and then if they have questions, they contact you and then you can try to sell them
in a nutshell, sure, yes, absolutely. So there's that part. Like you're giving them a taste. Like just try it. No, it's free this time. It's kind of like that. But the other part is that the more important part is that you're really trying to help people. You're really trying to make their life easier. And if you're genuine in that approach, it makes everything else easier. Sure, we need to do sales, but you know who our sales team is? It's Duncan and I, basically. We're people who do the work or have done the work in the past, So we're not like classically trained salespeople. But if you've started from a position of providing something to people and being helpful, they then associate that with your brand, right? So they then have that connection, that trust with you already. So if they, we have, a dozen different offers like this. So if they download half of those, they're already pretty familiar with who we are and what we do.
Sorry, I was going to bring up the landing page for it.
Oh, okay. So
Where is your doc?
it's on the side, on the right side.
Ah.
Yeah, keep it. All right, so when we meet with a client and we start doing a strategy, we start with the buyer personas, and we just do a brainstorming session to determine which personas they have. And we might go into that meeting and our clients will have maybe 3, 4 in mind, and we might come out of that meeting with a dozen to 20 even sometimes. That's unwieldy. But when you start to talk about who really uses your product, who you really want to use your product, because those are two different things sometimes, you realize that there's a lot more about your audience that somebody knew or the collective group knew than is documented anywhere. So if the CEO knows exactly who they're selling to, that's great. But if the marketer doesn't know exactly who that is, and the salesperson doesn't know who that is, and the product guy doesn't know who it is, then it's pretty much useless. So you want to define that for your organization, right? So when this is our landing page. So we will write a blog post like something to the effect of how long does it take to build a website, or what's my timeline for a corporate website, or something like that. Then there'll be a link to the landing page so that they can get information about buyer personas. And they get here. It's a really simple offer. Fill out a form, very easy to understand, and they're on their way. So that template has been magically downloaded for you guys right here on your desks. So what we want to do is we have to pick one of two companies. So should I just assign companies? Does anybody have a strong preference for Clean Beans, the Uber of cleaning, or Blank Canvas Paint, better than Idea Paint? All right, Idea Paint, Blank Canvas Paint for you guys. Clean Beans. Clean Beans. Blank Canvas Paint, Clean Beans, Blank Canvas Paint. Okay? All right, so first thing we want to do is let's define one customer, right? So for Blank Canvas Paint, who do you think it would be? Who would that customer be?
Yes, me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say a small, the leader of a creative director at a design firm that wants to have a really cool conference room where they can brainstorm ideas in a really cool way.
So he wants that. All right. So we'll call him Creative Director Derek. All right. So that's your guy. So he's what, 40?
Sure.
Used to have a ponytail, but he doesn't anymore because he's kind of bald. He is college educated. He went to design school, realized he couldn't make any money designing skateboards. So he went off and found a real job at an agency, worked his way up. Now he's a creative director, and he makes $100,000 a year. He lives in the Northeast, probably. Did everybody write that down?
It's all up here.
So those are that's kind of information we want to document, right? So you guys can just jot it down. That's the basic stuff for the blank canvas target audience. Creative director at an agency, middle age, used to be a hipster, now he's a dad, makes a comfortable living, and he wants to have a really cool space where his team can brainstorm and come up with cool stuff, but he also wants to impress clients when they come in and see how cool his space is. Sound good?
Sounds good, yeah.
And then the other one is, what's it called?
Clean beans.
What was it?
Clean beans.
The Uber for cleaning. That's a great idea. So who's that target audience?
Let's see. I don't know. Maybe head of household who has a full-time job, is also trying to manage the family and deal with cleaning everything in the house, managing all of those sorts of things while also balancing work, balancing picking up the kids from school, and all of those sorts of things as well.
So probably, and two parents working.
Yeah.
Probably in that kind of a household, professional jobs.
Double income.
Yep. So do you guys need more information than that for your target audience for Clean Beans? All right. So we'll walk around. So what you want to do is just go through these questions, and we'll walk around and help you guys, but it's pretty straightforward. English majors can do it.
Which, you want them to go through every slide, or is there a specific slide we should focus on?
Let's start with this, right? Yeah, so we can do this as a group. So you guys all have this information. So these are the types of things you want to think about. For our blank canvas customer, that's a business-to-business customer for the most part. So these questions really apply. So, what's a typical day like in your job, in their job? What do they do? Why do we want to talk about that? Because we want to understand the challenges they have. I bet one of the things that creative director Derek is complaining about is going to too many meetings. He's meeting all day long. He's in meetings all day long. He can't do any actual work. So maybe that would tell us he would like some content about being more productive in his job. And that content could come in the form of blog posts. It can come in the form of podcasts. It can be an infographic. It can be a video. So those are the types of things that you want to think about. What skills does creative director Derek need to know about? One of the things he needs to do is to keep up with technology. So he needs to understand what the latest program he should be using for design is, or he should be understanding how to attract quality job candidates as he's hiring a team of designers. Where does he look to find the best candidates from area schools? How does he connect with them, bring them into his company? Common challenges he might face at work. For him, it would be like managing a team. He's a guy with a background in design, never went to business school, doesn't know much about management except for what he's learned on the job. So tactics for how he can manage a team, keep people motivated, that kind of stuff might be really important to him. Other things might be how do you bid accurately for jobs? So one of the things Derek might be involved in is coming up with an estimate for a website or working with a team to do that. So that kind of stuff would be important to him. How does he like to interact with vendors? How do you guys like to interact with a company or a person you're buying something from? Who likes it when someone calls them on their cell phone that you've never heard of? Yeah, no one likes that. You like to find it in a review, right? Or hear about it from your friends. Or be able to follow them sort of in a non-committal way on social media and see what they're like. So, think about how Derek would like that. He'd probably be interested in getting right to the point. He's busy, right? He's got a million things to do at his job. He's got a bunch of stuff going on outside of work. He just wants to get the information and get it quickly. What would stop him from buying a product? What do you think?
Lots of different things. Cost, bad reviews, being irritated by the marketing that the company's putting out.
Chemicals, maybe?
Sure. Smell. Application might be too
Quality.
hard, having
Yeah.
to hire a professional to do it. Yeah, it breaking down after a year.
Yep. And then you can skip do you use social media because we know everybody does. But what you might want to do is think about which social media network or networks your target customer would be on. So if it's creative director Derek, he's probably on, he's on Facebook, and he's probably on Instagram, probably not on Snapchat. Anything else? What else? Where else would he be? LinkedIn, absolutely, right? Because he's climbing that corporate ladder. Exactly. So there you go. And the same thing for the cleaning target audience. For Clean Beans customer, where would you find, let's assume it's a her. It's the mom in the equation. They have 2 young kids probably. How would you connect with her? Anyone?
So maybe she hears from a friend of hers.
Okay, word of mouth. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So maybe make it easy. So that would have an impact on your strategy if you're developing a website or content, because you want to make it as easy as possible for the neighbor down the street to pass that on through social media or email or text to the target audience, right? To the buyer persona.
And a lot of these are geared more toward the B2B type thing, because we're focusing on their job and what's going to make their job easier. But the same process applies to consumers just as easily. We're basically talking about, instead of your job, we're talking more about your life. What's going to make your life easier? What is your life like? How much time do we have before we have to convince you that this is the product for you? And all of those sorts of things. This process is the process we go through for companies like Bose or companies like Liberty Mutual. It works no matter what we're doing. Obviously, we tailor it to each individual company, but it really works to really define those audiences, because then once you know who they are, then you can really market to them in an effective way and actually see the results coming in from it.
So let's do this. You guys all have your company assignments, right? So why don't you come up with the differentiators for your product? So what I mean by that is, what are the reasons that someone would choose your product or service over a competitor or over somebody else that's in that space? So for the blank canvas paint company, the competitors would be these kinds of whiteboards you can write on, the glass ones. It might be idea paint. It might be smart boards. So you want to come up with the reasons why your product is different and what the story you can tell might be to your target audience.
And just use your imagination.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Whatever you want to make it.
Right. And then for the other company, for Clean Beans, you want to do the same thing. Like, why would somebody use your product? So it might be convenience, it might be cost. You tell us, right? So everybody talk amongst yourselves and figure those differentiators out. If you have a question or you're not, if you're not sure, just let us know. All right, everyone ready? Okay. So let's just go around the room, and each table can just list off say what company you had, and then just list off the differentiators. Do you guys want to start?
Sure.
Okay.
We've got the blank canvas company, and we've got quite a few. Our differentiators are that it is any size and shape that you want. We could offer a solution that would make it removable. There's no technology involved like smart boards, so you wouldn't have to deal with any of that. We'd offer free installation. You could keep the colors of the walls the same. It's environmentally friendly. which Derek would like because he used to be a hippie.
That's right. There you go.
It would be friendly for all writing utensils, including permanent markers. It's cheaper and it lasts longer. It's non-toxic because Derek was a hippie and he likes the environment. And it's waterproof.
Cool. Excellent. So a good list of benefits, reasons why this would be a better product than others. Anyone else for the, what's it called? Blank canvas paint. Who else had that one?
I mean, it could be used, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing in terms of, people look at it and say, okay, that looks professional.
Yep, looks cool. Yep. And then any others? I know they probably stole all your thunder, right? Yeah. All right. Any others to add to what these guys just listed off? I'm sure you guys have a lot of the same ones, but anything they didn't mention? No. Okay. Who had the clean beans? You guys? Okay.
All right. We had that. As a cost-wise, it'd be cheaper to have like a one-time. Just, I need cleaning up after my kid's birthday party or whatever, etc. You can choose the hours because everyone has busy schedules.
Yep.
The one issue we had a bit of trouble in the past was trust, so we figured there'd be some sort of like rating by cleaner scale that everyone does.
Yeah, so some kind of validation, same like you would with Uber, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's also very scalable, so you can have like, say you have your stereotypical like senior having a horrible destroy the house party versus someone that just means, hey, I don't have time, can you vacuum these 2 carpets for me kind of thing. Like
Excellent,
there's
yeah.
a large range of scale you can work with.
Yeah.
And it also has the fact that since it's kind of an Uber setup, if it's a maid, you kind of have to see them every day. And if you're someone who's actually kind of embarrassed about the state of your household, once they're gone, they're gone.
Huge. That's a huge differentiator. Great. That's a great point. Good idea. Any others? Okay. Anybody else have any other differentiators for the clean beans? Or, yep.
Well, we did, like we listed the same stuff as they did, but like you can choose to have them use your cleaning products if you like have a certain attachment to them, or they can bring their own if like you don't have enough time to get your own cleaning products.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would have an in-app payment system where if you have like a large group, you can have it split evenly among each member so that it splits up the responsibilities so no one owes you anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would have premium that you can sign up for, and you can get like your own personal butler or something. Like you can have like either no commitment or sign up for premium. Like someone can like come more often if you have like a favorite or something like that. You can do more than just clean and do laundry. You can like water your plants while you're gone or something.
Right, yeah. That's awesome. You guys have drastically expanded the market for clean beans because we were thinking it's for us, basically. And you've applied it to your lives, right? So if you have a rager and your house is trashed, you don't want to deal with it, right? Or you do not say that anymore? Or you have environmentally friendly products. That was a really good one. And you want to be able to split it in the app for payment. That's a great idea. So those are all good differentiators. So what we're going to do now is we're going to apply that information to our buyer personas. We're going to build our buyer personas, right? So the first thing we need to know is what makes a company special. Next thing we need to know is who do they want to attract and how are they going to do that. So if you guys, can we go to this slide. So it's just a template for buyer persona Betty. What we'd like you guys to do is to basically just fill this stuff out. So what we would do, we would base this on data as much as we have it. Sometimes it's just anecdotal. So it's just somebody saying, well, most of our customers are X, Y, and Z.
They all tell us that this is a problem they're constantly, experiencing. Or
Right, yeah. And a lot of this information comes from the sales team because those are the people who are really only people in the company who are talking to the customers and talking to the prospects. And they're asking them all the stuff that they want to know in order to make a decision about buying the product. So take a minute or a few minutes, and as a group, we'd like you guys to try to fill these out for the buyer persona that we all established. Keep in mind the differentiators for your products, and just go through. And the reasons we do this is because these are the ways that your company can help your prospects, the people who are thinking about using your product, you can help answer their questions by having this information at the ready. Go! All right, let's soldier on here. How are you? Everybody got a pretty complete buyer persona, or at least a start. Yeah. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, so we got our buyer persona. Can everyone just go around and tell us one interesting thing that came up, or one interesting idea that you learned or made up while you're doing the buyer persona? Let's start with you guys.
So one of ours was, what's your name? So one of our buyer personas was Betty. She works in HR for a mid to large corporation. She's a single mom with twins. The person's pain points are that they have no free time, they have a rough job, they have a lot of stress, and so they want a very simple kind of convenient service that's affordable. They want a cleaner that's going to be okay around kids, and they want to make sure that they can trust the person that comes to their house, and so they really want to make sure that the person that they hire is, top notch and will be able to, fulfill the objective and, yeah.
Cool, that's great. That's great. Did you guys talk about, I know this is kind of the next step, but did you talk about the questions that you can answer for this person through marketing, through content that you might create? That's okay.
So the question, like there was something on here, like what are some questions this persona might ask?
Yeah.
So it was a similar kind of thing, like how can we ensure, like how can she be sure that that it's safe to invite a complete stranger over to their home? How can they be sure that the quality is going to be good? The punctuality, if they're pressed for time, maybe they're only free from 4 to 5. And so they need somebody that can go there and get the whole job done in that hour while they're home. If the person's 15 minutes late, that puts a serious strain on things. So that's a serious one. Reliability, will the person show up with all the equipment? Do they actually know how to do the job?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Those are great. Nice work. One of the things to think about if you are creating content to generate leads for a company is there are different stages that we all go through when we're considering a solution for a problem that we have. The first is you identify that you need help. It's almost like a 12-step program. But you identify that you're like, hey, my house is a mess, I don't have time to clean it. So you might Google best ways to get my house cleaned without spending a fortune. So you might, you think about top of the funnel content, so it's more general answers to those types of questions. Then you think about middle of the funnel content, so that's more like, all right, I know I got a problem, I know there are a few options, how do I go about making sure the service is safe? And then there's bottom of the funnel content, which is more about, should I choose A or B? So it's just bringing that person right to the sale. Does that make sense? Kind of. All right, next table. You guys. How'd it go? How's your buyer persona?
Ours is actually strikingly similar to theirs. Our buyer persona, Betty, is also a single mom. She's working all day. Comes home, cooks dinner, very busy life, couple kids, she's in sales, gets all her information through Facebook, email. She just wants a cheap, easy, hands-off way to get her chores and laundry done around the house. But
Cheap
she also
and
wants,
easy, yeah.
That's
what she.
she doesn't have that much disposable income, and she is also wants to make sure that the people coming into our house are safe and are going to do a good job.
Great, yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
Can you start to see how, rather than just saying we're marketing to homeowners, by really figuring out who these people are, we can market to specific types of people in really clear ways that's measurable and turn it into actual sales. So that we're not just sort of, blanketing the world, being like, hey, if you need cleaning services, here we are. We're figuring out who that ideal person that's going to buy our services, and then getting them to understand who we are to make a connection that way.
Nice. Another of the wall paint, what's it called?
Blank canvas.
Blank canvas. Who had blank, you guys? Yep.
Yeah, so we did Betty. She is a mom of 5 with a lot of disposable income though.
Oh, good.
And she works at home, and she was trying to find a way to think big with her at-home business of Tupperware while also keeping her kids from drawing on the walls. She doesn't like to look at computers, so she wanted something that was more hands-on that could be used in various ways. And she gets most of her information from Facebook, her daily walk outings, and kids sporting events.
Yeah, nailed the mom demographic, right? That was really good too. One of the things that you'll think about if you're in marketing and you're planning out this content is hitting a wide audience if you can. Like that one right there for the idea paint, selling it to moms she wants it in her house so the kids can write on it and be crafty, but she could also use it for her Tupperware parties. That's a pretty niche one, right? But it's a really good idea. I like what you guys did. But just want to think about defining a persona of whom there are many, right? You don't want to have it so narrow that there's only 10 of them in the country or something like that. But yeah, that was really good. And how about content? What kind of content ideas? What questions would she ask?
Oh, if it's like toxic or anything, she has a bunch of kids.
Okay. Yeah.
What you can use to write on it, because like kids are always falling.
Cool.
And like how long it's gonna last.
Yep. Oh, great ones. Can you go back to the agenda? Which is the other slide, the other presentation.
Oh, right.
So, what we want to do once we understand these buyer personas, we want to develop some sort of content marketing program. And typically how that works is there's an offer on a landing page, you fill out a form, you get the offer. And before that, there's blog posts or video or social media posts driving people to the landing page. So one of the things that you'll need to do if you're trying to get customers for a new company or a new product is to think about that top of the funnel audience, right? So think about the general questions, and then as they go through the buyer's journey, maybe it's just they Googled something, they found your blog content, and then they start to do their research until they become a customer. Maybe it takes them a while, and they have to do a lot of different searches and compare products, especially if it's a costly purchase. So you really want to think about how you can answer those questions at the top of the funnel to begin with. So we're just going to go through some really basic search engine optimization. Anyone familiar with SEO, like how it works? Okay, can you tell us a little bit about it, like best practices or what you know?
Well, there are a lot of parts to SEO, but basically it's like how you're ranked on like search engines, and it's just pretty complicated, but like each part is pretty simple by itself.
That's a really good explanation, that last part. You're right. Anybody else? SEO? Yep.
I know that it's kind of like there's a website, you have your website, and if you have as many links as possible linking to other sources, that link to other sources, you're going to be like ranked higher in like search results, and then like the more that link back to your site and back and forth, it's just kind of building a stronger web.
Okay.
So that's like what I know about like one aspect of like
right.
Like what he was talking about.
Yes, you guys are both right to an extent, right? So there are a lot of little pieces with search engine optimization. And it's all about making your content as accessible as possible for both search engines, so Google and Bing, as well as the reader, right? So there's technical aspects, but the most important part, especially as marketers, is the content. So how are you creating that content? Is it really useful, or is it just stuffed with keywords? If it's just stuffed with keywords, that doesn't work, anymore. It really needs to be a piece of content that people are going to bookmark or share with their friends or come back to as they're exploring the topic of whiteboards. So if you go forward to getting found, a couple more, and then again, there we go. So this is really basic, and you guys, you're on the right track with SEO, right? But some of the things that you should know if you're creating blog posts or content for a website, for a company or a client, there are two parts with the content you can control on your site for SEO. There's the actual stuff we can read and watch and see and graphics, and then there's the metadata. And the metadata is what search engines see. So there are things like the page title, which is part of metadata, and the description. Those are the things that show up in a Google search engine results page. So the blue thing is the page title. So you want to include keywords there. But that metadata also influences how your content is shared through social media or texted or however it gets shared. So that stuff's all important to think about. There are SEO considerations. The way that SEO works now basically is that search engines look at the most authoritative content judged by popularity, so links to that content, that's a huge factor, but also how people use that content. So if it's a longer form blog post, say it's like 2,000 words, and it has some video, and it's got a podcast, and it has some graphics in it, and when people get to it, they spend a lot of time on the page, and then they go to another page, that blog post is going to rank higher than another post that has fewer words, and when people come to it, they leave immediately. So instead of just looking at getting the right keywords and all the different variations, search engines are really smart now, and in fact they're so advanced that there are some people who actually work on them who couldn't tell you how to game them anymore. It's almost like artificial intelligence. But as marketers, as content creators, the most important thing to think about is your audience. Who's actually reading this content, and are you really helping them? So you can do a good job at SEO by creating content that is really useful. And then the little pieces like the metadata and the page title and getting inbound links, those are all cumulative things that really make a difference. But the most important thing is the quality of the content. So let's keep going. So one of the things that our clients stumble with is that they don't have people to create content in their company all the time. A lot of times we'll create that for them. So we have a bunch of writers and video folks. But there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there. So you want to think about what's kind of the minimum viable product or the content that you can create that's going to have a long shelf life. So a content offer for, say, the blank canvas paint company. Any ideas for a content offer? So it could be something we download, like that buyer persona template. It could be a webinar, something like that. Any ideas?
Maybe a booklet on ways to help increase creativity in your company.
Knocked it out of the park. Excellent, right. So you guys could launch an email survey with people in the industry who have used the product and gather data. Maybe you only get 100 responses. That's enough where you can say 35% of creative directors are dissatisfied with their whiteboard situation because they don't have any new ideas. Something like that, right? And then you package that up and you make that available as a download. And it's exactly what you're talking about, right? We recognize you have challenges. This is what your peers are talking about. Here's the content to help you solve those challenges. So that's a really good idea. Excellent. Any others? How about for the clean beans? What could you do? Could you create an experience, a trial, reviews? What do you guys think would be good content for those types of folks? Duncan, do you have any ideas?
Sure. How about a blog post? The top 5 things that a busy single parent can do to save time and spend more time with his or her kids.
That's a good one, right? Because you guys all identified these are busy people and their time is precious, so that's good info. And that would be shared too.
Yeah, so and the key to that one is that we're not saying the top 5 things that Clean Beans does for you, which no one cares about. It's the top 5 things that actually apply to your life that you might actually care about and you might actually read, and it's going to help cement the brand, and maybe your service is one of the things, or maybe not. But either way, it's going to bring the brand to your mind.
We also talked about how one of the buyer personas was like the mom, right? Busy mom for Clean Beans. What any ideas for a social campaign that might appeal to that target audience, to that buyer persona? I've got one. How about you have testimonials from people who have used this service, and then they are either creating Facebook posts or they're featured in your brand's Facebook posts, just saying, Clean Beans just gave me, 10 hours a week back on my life. I feel like $1 million, whatever it is. Or Clean Beans saved my marriage. I'm not arguing with my husband anymore because the house is always dirty and he doesn't do anything. Whatever. So and then you come up with a hashtag that could be applied to those and shared on Twitter or Instagram. How about a before and after on Instagram? So for Clean Beans, you have the before is the messy house, and then the after is the clean house, and then you have a hashtag that ties it all together. So that might be a good one. And then you would try to drive them back to the site, either to share their story, maybe give them some kind of prize. You get 6 months free if we use your success story using Clean Beans. So you're going to get somebody to enter, to fill out a form, and then give you all their information, and then actually create the content for you because they are sharing their story and either taking pictures of their messy house and clean house, or you might have somebody do that for you.
So again, we've defined who these buyer personas are. We know where they're looking. We know what they're interested in. We know how we can affect their lives. Then we want to be wherever they are. Maybe they're on Instagram, maybe they're on Facebook, maybe they're searching for specific types of things. If we can put all of that together and drive them to a landing page, a website, our social media, whatever it is, then we can start to really engage with them. And again, it's just so much more effective than putting a billboard up on the side of the road and hoping that 1 in every 1,000 cars happens to catch it and the brand sticks with them and they seek it out later.
Another important thing, especially if you are just starting out and trying to acquire customers, is to create content that has a lot of shelf life. One of our top blog posts, which is probably 3 years old now, is an always up-to-date guide for social media image sizes. So Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, they're always changing exactly how big the images should be that you share in your content. And so people get blurry images on Facebook or LinkedIn because they're just the wrong dimensions. And that stuff changes pretty regularly. So that's a really top of the funnel blog post, and we're trying to attract like creative director Derek or folks like that, designers. But that's a good example of content that has a long shelf life. The pamphlet on how to use blank canvas would be good long-term content. And then another thing that's important for not only engagement, for keeping people coming back, but also for SEO is to include different kinds of media. So video, audio through podcasts or recordings, infographics, GIFs, all kinds of stuff like that.
The other thing to keep in mind too is that while all of this takes a lot of time, which is how we're able to be a business because people hire us to do it, because we have the expertise, but also it's our job to create this stuff for them. It also, you could do it. If you're a one-person startup, you could be creating this content, you could be putting it out there, and it's not like you have to go come up with $10,000 to buy that billboard that's not going to do anything for you. You can do this, and you can start marketing things in a way that's actually going to work for you and start measuring it and seeing what's working.
So we can go on to the next one. So once you get that person's, so this is more hands-on stuff, especially if you're like starting a business or working as an intern to market a company or an organization. If you're using email marketing, which is kind of the point of getting people to give you their email address, right? So you want to continue to provide value. So your email marketing might be other content, other blog posts, or helpful guides that's relative to the first thing that they interacted with, or content that moves them closer to making a purchase decision. So it might be, you might have a series of 3 emails. The first is to say, hey, I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked that thing, you're also going to like this. Come back to our website and check it out. If they come back and check it out and download it or do whatever, the next email might be, hey, here's what people who use our product or service are saying about it. Here's 3 reviews. Check it out. And if you check those out, you'll get a coupon for 10% off. And then the third email, if they still haven't become a customer, might be, guess what? We're doing a free trial for a month. You can try out our service and see how clean your house can be. What do you have to lose? So you can see you go from the top of the funnel where, hey, here's some cool stuff. This is going to help you do your thing. To the middle of the funnel, like, hey, there's a few options. Maybe you want to try it. And then to the bottom of the funnel where you're making a sale almost 100% online. So if you are going to do an email campaign, just want to map it out. So you want to, anybody use MailChimp? Okay. Any others? Constant Contact? Okay. Have anybody used any other email service providers other than MailChimp? HubSpot? That's a really good thing to know if you guys are going for your first marketing job these days, is just how to use these tools. They all have most of them have some sort of free level, so you can try it out. Either if you're working for an organization on campus or something, you can set up a MailChimp account. It is free. I don't know if there are rules at UNH as to what you can use and cannot use for email marketing, but let's put that aside. But if you walk into a job interview and for a marketing specialist or something like that, just out of college, and you know how to do all this stuff, you're going to be head and shoulders above most marketing majors coming out of school.
Do you have the inbound marketing certification in this presentation at all?
I don't, but that's another good one.
Yeah, so one thing that we recommend, actually we require all employees, before they come to work for Rocka, they have to get certified in inbound marketing, which is a lot of what we're talking about tonight. And there's a free online certification that you can go take. HubSpot provides it. I don't have the URL, but if you just search HubSpot inbound marketing certification, it'll come up. Again, it's not overly hard to get to go through the program. Anybody, especially an intern, but any entry-level person who came in and already had that certification without our having them do it would already sort of rise to the top of the pack of resumes. Yeah. It's worth doing for any marketing job.
In HubSpot, there are other ones as well. Moz, M-O-Z, is an SEO software company. They also have similar kinds of things. That's another good place to learn. Another thing that you'll want to be able to do if you're doing an email marketing campaign is to measure what's working and what isn't and test different things. So you might test different call to action buttons, or you might test different subject lines. But if you're doing any kind of test, you want to do one at a time, test one thing at a time, and then adjust as you need to. On the next slide, we have just a really simple email nurturing campaign. So we've got the database, so somebody's filled out a form on our site or opted in somehow, so we've got their email address. We're going to encourage them to come back. If they come back, we want to be able to segment who did what and understand what they're interested in or not interested in. And then that should trigger some kind of second email to follow up. This is really basic. Send them back to a landing page. And then, repeat the process. So You also want to have some kind of social campaign. You'll notice if you search for something on Amazon and then you go to another site, you'll see ads for everything you just searched for, right? Well, the same thing works with other elements of online marketing, including email marketing and social. So we could actually trigger creating a Twitter list and following people if they've clicked on a certain link in an email that we've sent them, for example. So all these things kind of work together. There can be a lot of different steps, so it is really important just to draw it out and make sure that you know how all the different parts are working together. Converting prospects through consultation. What? Anyone know what I'm talking about or what that means? Any ideas? In the back?
Well, like on a literal sense, just pretty much potential customers, you're kind of just feeling out through like a consultation like what their needs are, and then you can just convert them into customers by being able to tailor your services or whatever to their needs.
Yeah, exactly. So you are going to, there's this big shift in sales and marketing across the whole country, all kinds of industries where sales and marketing are actually merging, right? They're becoming almost, they're certainly working together, but they're almost becoming one department. And formerly they'd been pretty siloed, pretty separate. So the marketing people would do their thing online and get a stack of leads and hand it off to the salespeople. And the salespeople call them up and they burn through all the leads in an afternoon. That's the marketer's perspective. The sales team would say, oh, these people aren't bringing us any leads. I'm just going to go work my old network and go back to my networking group in the morning or what have you. But increasingly, there's this combination using what's called a service level agreement, where you really define for the organization what's an actual lead that should be passed to sales. Like, what have they done on your website? How have they interacted with your company online in order to be considered a qualified lead? So that might be things like understanding what their budget is. If you know that you have to have a customer willing to spend $100,000 and they've somehow indicated they only have $25,000 to spend, that's not a good lead for sales. That's a waste of their time. If they have a certain makeup for their department, right? So if you know that you're really good at working with companies that have 2 to 3 people in their marketing team, it's a big corporation, it's publicly held, so they're not worried about the budget, that might be an indicator that you can pass them to sales, right? So there's all kinds of criteria that you should be looking at. Once you get all that information as a marketer, and we've really tailored this for people who want to start their own companies or want to start getting those first few customers. You've laid the groundwork as a marketer to build that trust. So then when you go through the sale, the actual, hey, what do you need? Here's the solution conversation. You've already got all this data. Plus, you've already come at it from a perspective of trying to be helpful, trying to get them, not get them to do something, but trying to help them find the best solution. And if it's you, that's great, and you want to close that deal. And if it's not you, that's not preferential, but that's okay because you've been helpful to them. And often, even if you don't get it that time, you don't get the sale that time, they'll remember that whole process that they went through, that trust that they built with you. So they might come back the next time, and they surely will probably refer other prospects to you as a potential, solution provider. So it's just thinking about things in a different way than marketing to people, blasting things at people. It's listening to what they need, trying to help them find solutions, and then really recognizing if they're a good fit or not. When you're first starting out, you'll probably take any customer that walks through the door. You want to get paid, right? You want to sell your software. You're going to give it to anybody. But you're going to go through some growing pains. You're going to realize that there are certain types of customers that are much better fit for your business than others. A good example might be, some customers they barely have the budget that they need to buy your service or product. But you need the sale. You need the revenue to keep the lights on. So you might take that customer. But that customer who barely can afford what you're selling is going to require a whole lot more time than the corporation who's just signing a check and keeping within their budget each year. And it's not really that person's money, you know. So you just want to be able to understand what's a good fit, and doing a consultative sales process really helps you with that. Any questions? Okay. Questions? All right. So I hope that's helpful. You know, is this kind of general inbound concept familiar to you guys? Do you guys recognize it now that you've kind of hear us talking about it? You see it kind of aimed at you in some ways?
So I just have a question, because you talk a lot about the inbound marketing. Like I know you said on your website, you have a bit where you put in your email.
Yep.
I feel though that there are a lot of businesses out there that, like, at least in my personal opinion, will like go over the top. Like they'll go on your website, and within like a minute or two of scrolling on their page, it's this massive thing that pops up in the center and says, oh, you know, sign up for our newsletter.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and they always have these things saying sign up, sign up, sign up. And I understand from a business perspective why they do it, but from a user perspective, I find it frustrating because you have to find a little X to close out. It kind of interrupts when you're reading their content. So my question is, like, how do you define the line between like wanting really to get that lead and to sign people up versus not ruining your customer with just kind of throwing stuff in their face?
That sounds like a great blog post for our company to write. It's a great question, and it is one that we wrestle with, right? So we do a couple of things to try to answer that. One is we look at what the client's goals are, what the company really wants to do. Do they want to be a helpful resource and build their brand that way? If that's true, we might not recommend a pop-up form to capture the email address, and instead just have a form at the bottom of the blog post. So that's one thing. If they want to get as many leads from the site as possible by the end of the quarter, because if they don't get more leads, they're going to get fired, we might be recommending, hey, try some more aggressive tactics to get people to sign up. So it all depends on the situation. One thing you never want to do is turn off the user. Like you're talking about those pop-up windows, and sometimes you get them on your phone, you just can't even interact with it, right? You can't turn it off, you can't read the blog post, so you just leave. So those are challenges that we wrestle with in user experience design. So what you want to do is have a balance. Nobody knows the exact balance, but what you can do is look at data. So those pop-up forms actually work. That's why companies have them, because they actually work to generate decent leads, and it's based on data. It's all based on the numbers. So that's why they're there.
But like the one on Raka's site, so we have it set up so you don't come to the homepage and suddenly you get a thing that's annoying. We have it set up that if you're reading a blog post and you get a certain amount of the way down the page, you're probably interested in what we're saying. So we'll pop something up at that point. So it's all about finding that balance and testing it. We might test that and say, whoa, no one signed up using that form. Okay, get rid of that, try something else. Or doing A/B testing. So half the people that come to the site, we're going to try this. Half the people that come to the site, we're going to do that. And we'll see what's more effective, and we'll do more of that.
So I always had a curiosity about this. So I get if you're a company and you're the first mover and you have content that people are interested in, that's a huge driver. But let's just say there's Saxby's here as a coffee shop, there's Breaking New Grounds, there's Aroma Joe's, there's probably 4 or 5 more, right? The Works, there's Dunkin' Donuts. Like, if they all do it, and the content for the persona more or less is the same, which is good coffee for cheap, I'm making something up. Like, how does that work over time? It seems like it's the law of diminishing returns from a content strategy. I've always been curious about this. You guys do it every day. I'm always wondering.
Yeah, that's a common problem, right? So one of the reasons we started with the differentiators is because that helps you to tell that story, right? So if when you're starting out, because this whole workshop's about getting your first few customers, you want to recognize what's not happening in the niche and how your service or product lines up with that. What's happening in the marketplace, rather. So how can you fill that niche, and how can you do it differently, and then tell that story to the people who actually need that different thing that you're offering. The other thing is you can do it better, right? So if everybody's searching for the best coffee shop in Durham, and let's just assume you actually Google that instead of just walking around, if one coffee shop's ranking for best coffee shop in Durham because they've gotten the most reviews, the most 4 or 5 star reviews, what you would want to do is to help your client or help the new coffee shop get more of those types of reviews. So you might do promotions to encourage reviews or just suggest it. There's a lot of rules about how much you can actually promote that. And then the other thing is, tactic in SEO would be skyscrapering content. So if you Google something and you see your competitors there, or really anyone, and you want to be found for that term, you can produce content that is better than what's ranking right now. So if that one's first and you want to be first, you provide all of the resources that are in that blog post or piece of content, and you do it better. You provide more. You have better graphics. So those are some tactics that you might employ.
And this is where buyer personas can really come in handy too, because again, it's like computer companies. If every computer company is just talking about the gigahertz of their processors and things like that, no one cares. But if we're talking about what really sort of is going to make me latch onto that brand, then we can talk about the ways that we might be able to get people to go to one brand or another. A coffee shop, for instance, might say, we're really going after people in their 20s that are mostly on Instagram, and so we're going to be posting 3 times a day on Instagram, showing how just energetic it is here, and or some cool art we do in the cappuccinos, or whatever it is. Or maybe we're going after startups, single entrepreneurs, and we want to show how great it is to just come here and get a cup of coffee and work. So again, we're not talking about the taste of coffee. We're talking about things that might make you a little bit different, so that we can try to figure out who those personas are and get them to come in and then get them to become loyal to the brand.
That's great. And it's going to add to that for those who have gone through this process. So in our terms, we talk about it as customer discovery. So for those of you who have done some of that piece, right, this is customer discovery, which is understanding what that aspect of your product your customer likes, and then spin it to that. So thanks.
The other part of that would be identifying what your audience values, what they think is cool, especially with coffee shop. So if the type of music you play or the interior design, as Duncan was talking about, of your shop is really what sets you apart and what people want to identify with, and maybe the logo is on the cups that you sell. And that's kind of like, if I have that, I'm part of this cool club, or it's somehow building my persona as, somebody who's cool. So that's another way to carve out that niche, is to provide what your audience wants and be that thing that fits into their life and helps them to kind of build who they are.
It's kind of a broad question, but do you have any specific content generating ideas or know-how?
Yeah, sure. So we just went through one, right? The buyer persona activity, where you just document what the questions are, and then you could literally build out. So in that template, we had 10 questions, right, that you should be able to answer. But you could literally build out 100 different blog post ideas if you wanted to, just based on the questions that people ask. One way to do it is to regularly have the marketing team and the sales team talk to each other, because the sales team fields the questions that the marketing team often never hears, and they have the answers often. They've answered that same question 100 times, so they've kind of got that info down. So that's one way. Another way is to do it through keyword research. So you might identify what you want to rank for, what you want to get search traffic for, and then create content around that, around those search terms. So those are a few ways.
Again, making sure that you're being helpful while you do it, and you're creating quality content. So you're not just sort of saying, packing, I'll use our company as an example. We might want to be looking for people who are saying, how long does it take to build a website? We know that might be a good lead for us, because that might be a director of marketing who's looking to do a website, which they might hire us for. But we don't want to just put together content that's just sort of like, what is website design, or something like that, something that's just not going to help people, but something that's more like, how long does it take to design and build a website, that's really interesting information, that's not just selling Rocka's services. That could be really useful to someone, and it can sort of it can be broad information that could apply to any company that they go to, but it's going to bring them to us and they might say, well, this is really valuable information. These people know what they're talking about. I'm going to be loyal to that brand in some way, either remembering them, reaching out to them, maybe signing up for their newsletter, whatever it is.
Great.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Any career advice or anything like that? No? Okay.
World Series winners. So join me to thank Brian and Duncan. Just great presentation.